Good afternoon. So today we're going to be discussing cost management on your projects. So this is one of the models within the successful developments model called the 4 C's to cost management. Now, within your projects, you have to have cash flow, or that project is going to, it won't succeed, it won't be successful, and it's going to go under. So without cash flow, you don't have a project. It will stop at the first hurdle. So we've got to manage our cash flow throughout the project. We've got to manage the charges that are going to be coming in and the costs as well. We're going to move on to, we're just going to cover the costs today. What you can expect to see and where you will hemorrhage cash on a project typically. So we'll jump straight into the model. And we're going to talk about first is time. So time within your project is your number one cost. Before anything else, your biggest cost is time. Not materials, not your kitchen, not the tiles, it's time, and that's it. Now, I do have people that say to me, "What? It's only cost me time." Time is your biggest cost, and this is going to explain why. But you absolutely need to know and understand why time is the biggest killer of your project. So to know how to manage the time within the project, you need to know how long things take. Once you know how long things take, that's going to help you when you're scheduling your build program and then overlaying your cash flow on top of that build program. So understanding how long things take is absolutely key, and that we do cover in more depth in the wider understanding of the build process model. But within this model, we're just going to discuss in time. That's the thing that we're concerned with. So it's not each individual task as well that takes the time. So, if you're sat thinking, a kitchen fit only takes 3 days, tiling's just a day, plastering's maybe 3 days. It's not that particular job that's going to take you your time. It's the programming of those different tasks and how they knit together to form one big pot of time, which is the duration of your entire development. So let's take, for instance, we're going to talk about a quick kitchen replacement that needed an electrical upgrade, some plastering, a kitchen fit, and some tiling thereafter. So each individual task, there might be a tradesman on maybe a day each, a bit longer for the kitchen fitter, but let's say there's 7 days involved in that. Now that will be a 7-day project, assuming that you get the scheduling correct and you book in those guys correct, the material deliveries to support the guys delivering that element of work. Now, if you get that right, you're going to have a nice smooth transition. And what the training is going to give you is from start to finish on how to get the very first tradesman in, what he needs, the next one in, what they need, the next one in and what they need, and when those things need to come in and what we need to be monitoring during that process, spend time, charges, all the rest of it. So like I said, it's not the individual task that takes the time, it's the plotting, the planning and the programming that takes the time. So, and it is the failure to accurately plot that transition that loses your time and then ultimately loses you, it's going to lose you profit, money, and it's going to take away from your margin at the end of the job. So as I said, proper planning and scheduling is the key to success here. So to consider an overrun on a project, that now has a cost implication. You may well be sat there again thinking that, well, it's just time, I'm only losing time, but with that time is going to come more cost. So why does it cost you to overrun on a project? You're managing it yourself, you're not taking time off work, you're not losing money out of your pocket. But what it does, if you've borrowed money, and it's likely that you have, to do your project, you've got a mortgage perhaps that you've bought the property with, maybe you've got bridging finance to do the build with, maybe you've got a development loan or it's on a credit card. Whatever that is, if you're pushed into a position where the postponement of that repayment at the end is pushed beyond where it should have been, you're then extending that loan period and therefore attracting increased interest payments and increased payments. Also, there are certain loans that are going to charge you a penalty for being late. So bridging finance in particular, if you're late repaying your bridge, you're going to get spanked at the end. You're also stretching your cash flow. So if your money that's coming in, i.e. rental or sale, isn't coming in for some further amount of time in the future, then you're just sat with costs with no income. So that stretching of that cash flow could send you under also. You're also putting off the next project. We're in this as developers, we're professionals, we're buying lots of properties. We're not just buying one, making a couple of bucks and then leaving. We'll go into the next one. And if we're stuck embedded in this first project, then you're putting off starting your next one. Extended insurance. So if you're got in typical type of insurance for that project, that is then going to extend. A loss of rental income. So if you're planning on finishing that, let's just shot some dates out. So the 1st of October, you plan to finish. Your tenants were going to move in on that month or that date, but they couldn't because something wasn't finished and you've run over by a month. If you're expecting 700-800 quid a month rent, that's 700-800 quid you've lost because there's no tenant in there. You're also unable to revalue the property to be able to release the equity from it until it's finished and you've had that revaluation. There's no use getting a revaluation before it's done. You might be reliant upon that reval to pay your builder or pay off the finance you've used to deliver the project. So every month over could cost you in excess of 800 quid just in time. Before anything else, just time in those penalties.